the sun, the moon, and the cosmic egg. I want to begin by making something clear. What I am considering here is symbolism. I am not claiming that a woman is literally the moon, that a man is literally the sun, or that reproductive anatomy was physically constructed as a diagram of the cosmos. I am looking at forms, relationships, and recurring patterns, and asking what happens when they are contemplated together. The thought began with the female reproductive system. There are two ovaries, one on either side. An egg develops within an ovarian follicle, and during a typical ovulatory cycle, one follicle becomes dominant and releases an egg. It does not happen according to a simple left-right alternation. Either ovary can be the one from which ovulation occurs. That immediately gave me a symbolic image of two ovaries and two moons, but not two different moons. It is the same moon appearing in two different conditions. One is the moon during the day, almost disappearing into the sky. It is there, but pale, subtle, and sometimes difficult to distinguish from its surroundings. The other is the moon at night, visible and illuminated against darkness. Then, in another cycle, the relationship can reverse. Day becomes night, night becomes day, left becomes right, and right becomes left, and yet there was only ever one moon. This reminded me of the phases of the moon. Illumination appears to move across it from one side toward the other, and then the relationship reverses again. Symbolically, it begins to resemble a mirror. But once a mirror is introduced, the question of left and right becomes strange. Which side is truly left and which is truly right? From whose perspective? The opposition depends upon the standpoint from which it is observed. This is what I've been calling dual paradoxical simultaneousness, one reality appearing through two complementary conditions simultaneously, without therefore becoming two completely separate realities. Then another part of the symbolism appeared. If the woman is contemplated as lunar, the man can be contemplated as solar. But that statement cannot be treated as a fixed equation in which man simply means sun and woman simply means moon. The symbolism moves, turns back upon itself, and changes depending upon the level from which it is being contemplated. That became obvious when I looked at a microscopic image of the egg and noticed how strongly it resembled certain high-resolution images of the sun. At first, this seems contradictory. If the man represents the sun, why should the egg within the woman resemble the sun? But perhaps the contradiction is exactly where another layer begins. The sun is singular in this picture, while the moon is encountered through duality, phases, and reflection. Yet what proceeds from the sun remains of the sun. A ray does not become an entirely independent source merely because it extends outward from its source. Symbolically, then, the masculine seed can be contemplated as something like a solar ray. Here the direction becomes paradoxical. What appears to be going outward can simultaneously be understood as returning inward. The sperm appears to travel from the man toward the egg, but within the symbolism I am considering, this movement can also be contemplated as the solar ray returning to the sun from which it proceeded. It becomes an image of spirit returning to source, the sun returning to the Father, or the self returning to itself. This is difficult to express because ordinary language wants movement to have only one direction. Something either goes away or comes back. It either enters or exits. But the symbolism I am considering does not behave that way because reality is perceived upside down, backwards, and inside out. What appears to be departure from one standpoint can simultaneously be returned from another. There is only one way. I have contemplated the same principle through breathing. When I breathe in, I take in. That seems obvious. But when I breathe out, symbolically, I am also participating in taking in. Physiologically, breathing works through changing pressures. When the chest expands, pressure in the lungs falls relative to the surrounding atmosphere and air moves inward. When the chest recoils, pressure rises and air moves outward through the comparatively narrow passages of the respiratory system. So inhalation and exhalation are physically different movements, but they belong to one continuous pressure cycle. That physical push and pull gives me another symbolic image. There is a kind of reciprocal movement that reminds me of magnetism, pulling and pushing, attraction and release, inward and outward movement continually giving way to one another. I do not mean that breathing is literally magnetic. I mean that the relationship gives me a way of contemplating the same pattern. When I breathe out, the air is pushed through a limited opening and pressure drives it outward. At the same time, that exhalation is part of the process that prepares the body to receive the next inhalation. What goes outward participates in what comes inward. Releasing makes receiving possible, and receiving makes releasing possible. So symbolically, I can say that I take in by breathing in, and I also take in by breathing out. The apparent outward movement belongs to the inward movement. Exhalation makes inhalation possible, and inhalation makes exhalation possible. Separate them completely, and there is no breathing at all. What appears to be two opposing movements is therefore one living process. Breath moves inward and outward, yet symbolically both directions participate in one movement of receiving. There is only one way. This is the same paradox I am contemplating in the movement of the seed. What appears to travel away is returning. What appears to enter another is returning to itself. What appears divided is moving toward the recognition of its unity. When man and woman align symbolically, sun and moon align, and the image becomes an eclipse. When the sun and moon perfectly align in an eclipse, the image itself resembles an eye, with a dark circular center surrounded by light. It resembles a pupil, and that opens another symbolic doorway involving entrance, openings, darkness, and passage from an exterior into an interior. The symbolism of entering a body can therefore be contemplated alongside other images of entering an interior, passing through an opening, descending into the earth, entering a cave, being swallowed, passing into a stomach, descending into darkness, entering a womb, or even approaching the imagery we associate with a black hole. These things are not physically equivalent. The relationship I am considering is symbolic, the repeated image of passing from an exterior into an interior that cannot initially be seen. Then comes the seed. Of the enormous number of sperm involved, ordinarily only one fertilizes the egg. On the other side, during ovulation, one egg is ordinarily released. One meets one, but even saying that can make them sound more separate than the symbolism I am considering allows. The sperm belongs to the man and the egg belongs to the woman. Biologically, they are distinct reproductive cells from two different people. Symbolically, however, their meeting can be contemplated as reunion. The man returns to the woman, the ray returns to the sun, spirit returns to source, and what appeared as two recognizes itself again as one. This is why I would say, within this symbolic system, that the man is the same as the woman, but the woman is not the same as the man. Again, this is not a biological statement about men and women being physically identical. It is an asymmetrical symbolic relationship. The relationship moves one way. It is the same, but not simply reversible. There is unity containing distinction, which is another expression of dual paradoxical simultaneousness. There is something almost poetic hidden inside the reproductive image as well. Her egg and his sperm meet again, and symbolically there is almost a statement contained within that meeting: we will be together forever. I do not mean that two individual human beings literally lose their identities forever. I mean that within the symbolism, separation never becomes absolute. What appears divided can return to union, and union can again express itself through apparent division. Christianity gives us another expression of this in the language of marriage: the two become one. This can be understood literally in relation to human union, but it can also be contemplated symbolically. Two become one, and one becomes many. Duality enters unity, and unity gives rise to multiplicity. Man and woman are two. In union, they become one, and through that union, another life can emerge. There is one sperm and one egg, and from their union comes one developing human life. Eventually, that one life can participate in generation again. Two become one, the one becomes many, and the many do not exhaust the one. This brings me back to an idea that has appeared repeatedly throughout my thinking: the one becoming the many without the one somehow ceasing to be one. At the moment of egg activation, there is also something physically real that adds another remarkable image to the symbolism: the zinc spark. When a mammalian egg is activated at fertilization, zinc is rapidly released from the egg in bursts. With specialized fluorescent imaging, scientists can visualize this release as flashes surrounding the egg. I am not claiming that this is literally a mystical light or a soul being photographed. But symbolically, the image is remarkable. Sun and moon meet, seed and egg meet. What appeared separated returns to union, and at the threshold of a new developmental process, there is a visible spark of light. Then there is the egg itself. When I looked at a real microscopic image of a human egg and then looked at an image of the sun, I was struck by their visual resemblance. That resemblance carries another significance within this symbolism. The egg can participate in lunar symbolism because it exists within the symbolism of the woman, and yet it can resemble the sun because the deeper movement is not simply the sun approaching something utterly different from itself. The ray is returning to its source. What first looked like a contradiction becomes part of the pattern itself. The sun within the moon and the moon within the sun, the same and yet not the same. Again, resemblance does not establish physical identity or causal connection. But symbolically, the resemblance immediately brought something ancient back into the picture: the cosmic egg. The idea of the universe emerging from an egg or primordial womb appears in different forms across ancient traditions. Hindu thought gives us Hiranyagarbha, the golden womb or golden embryo. Greek Orphic traditions contain the Orphic egg. Other cosmologies have their own versions of the primordial egg or enclosed beginning. The biological egg, therefore, sits beside an extraordinarily old cosmological symbol, something apparently singular and enclosed that contains the possibility of an entire world of differentiation. It becomes an image of one containing many, potential becoming manifestation, the unformed becoming formed, and the invisible becoming visible. The egg does not look like the human being that can develop from it. The seed does not look like the person. What emerges cannot simply be recognized by staring at the original form. The beginning contains something that cannot yet be seen in the form it will eventually take. Then I began wondering where the earth belongs in this picture. If there is a sun and a moon, there must also be an earth for there to be the human experience of day and night that I am using symbolically. The earth can be contemplated as the field upon which the drama becomes manifest. The moon carries markings across its surface in which people have long recognized familiar forms. I have seen comparisons in which features of the moon are made to resemble terrestrial geography. I do not know that those visual comparisons mean anything physically, and I do not need to pretend that I know. I can simply look at the resemblance and say that it is interesting. Within the symbolism, however, it produces another image. Earth appears upon moon, while seed descends toward Earth like a falling star. The solar seed descends into the lunar earthly field. But again, descent and return begin to overlap. What appears to descend is returning, and what appears to leave one world enters another. This becomes especially interesting when I contemplate birth itself. A child develops within the waters of the womb for approximately 9 months. Eventually, the water breaks and the child is born. Ordinarily, we describe this as coming out of the womb and entering the world. Symbolically, however, what if coming out of one womb is simultaneously entering another? The child leaves one enclosed world only to enter a greater one. Birth becomes exit and entrance simultaneously. What appears to be going out is also going in. Eventually, the life that entered this larger womb must also leave it and return. This produces a cycle that can be expressed through things we ordinarily recognize as cycles, such as breathing, birth and death, generation, lunar phases, and day and night. But what I am trying to contemplate is not merely mechanical repetition. It is metaphysical, mystical, and abstract. Source gives rise to apparent separation. Apparent separation returns to source. Union gives rise to manifestation. Manifestation appears separate again, and separation returns. Beginning and ending fold into one another. The cycle does not merely repeat, it returns. Sun, moon, and earth are therefore no longer isolated objects in the contemplation. They become relationships. There cannot be the experience of daytime without the relationship between Earth and Sun. There cannot be the ordinary physical appearance of moonlight without the relationship between Sun and Moon. There cannot be the phases of the Moon without the changing geometry among Sun, Earth, and Moon. Here I have to distinguish physical description from symbolic contemplation. Physically, the Moon does not generate the visible light that we ordinarily call moonlight. Sunlight falls upon its surface and is reflected toward us. Its phases result from the changing geometry of the Sun, Earth, and Moon. That description belongs to the physical appearance of things within this reality. Symbolically, however, I am contemplating something different. The Moon has its own light. That does not require denying the physical description because the two statements occupy different levels of contemplation. The Sun and Moon, symbolically, are the same and not the same. More precisely, the Sun is the same as the Moon, but the Moon is not the same as the Sun. The relationship goes one way. It is asymmetrical, which is another expression of dual paradoxical simultaneousness. If reality is perceived upside down, backwards, and inside out, then what appears outwardly as borrowed light can simultaneously symbolize an inward light belonging to the same underlying source. The Moon can therefore reflect the Sun and possess its own symbolic light without those two statements canceling each other, because they are not being made in precisely the same sense. One describes physical appearance, while the other describes symbolic identity. This also brings me back to the dream. Within a dream, there may appear to be a sun illuminating the landscape. There may appear to be lamps, fires, stars, shadows, and reflections. But none of those apparent objects is ultimately the source of the dream's visibility in the ordinary physical sense. The entire appearance, including its lights and darknesses, arises within the same field in which the dream itself appears. In that sense, the light is not merely another object inside the dream. We are the light, not the personal ego imagined as some little physical lamp, but in the symbolic sense that the illumination by which experience becomes present cannot simply be reduced to another illuminated object within experience. So when I contemplate the Moon as possessing its own light, I am not making an astronomical claim that moonlight is physically generated by the Moon instead of reflected sunlight. I am speaking about the deeper symbolic relationship. The Sun illuminates the Moon reflects the Sun, and the Moon gives light. Sun and Moon are contemplated as two appearances of something that cannot finally be divided into two independent sources. They are the same and not the same, one direction but not simply reversible, an asymmetry within unity. Again, this is dual paradoxical simultaneousness. That takes me back to the mirror. The Moon during the day and the Moon during the night are the same Moon. Its appearance changes according to relationship and perspective. What appears absent can still be present. What appears dark has not ceased to exist. What appears to move from one side to another may instead reveal a changing relationship among observer, light, and object. That is exactly the kind of paradox I keep encountering elsewhere. Visible and invisible, light and darkness, one and many, inside and outside, left and right, male and female, sun and moon, inhalation and exhalation, birth and return, the same and not the same. Then there is the anatomy itself. Looking at diagrams of female reproductive anatomy, I keep noticing triangular and pyramidal forms. I want to examine this further rather than prematurely deciding exactly what it means, but my immediate symbolic association is with the Trinity, three expressed through the triangle or pyramid, and contemplated alongside Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The imagery of entrance then becomes connected with the eclipse and the pupil. The solar and lunar principles align, an opening appears, and spirit enters into manifestation. Again, I am deliberately using the word symbolically. I am not attempting to turn anatomy into a literal theological machine. I am asking whether the same basic forms can be contemplated across different scales and different kinds of experience. That question has already appeared elsewhere in my thinking. A neuron and the cosmic web, an egg and the sun, the pupil and the eclipse, the womb and the cosmic egg, the seed descending, and the falling star. The breath going outward while participating in what comes inward, the child leaving one womb and entering another, the ray leaving the sun and returning to the sun, and the moon reflecting the sun while simultaneously symbolizing a light that cannot finally be separated from its source. The microscopic and the cosmic begin to echo one another. That does not prove that one literally is the other. Perhaps the more interesting question is why certain forms keep returning: circles and spheres, points and openings, seeds and eggs, light and darkness, breath and reflection, division and union, departure and return, one and two and three and many. Perhaps that is why the cosmic egg struck me so strongly. Humanity was contemplating the image of an egg as a symbol of cosmic origin long before anyone could place a human egg under a modern microscope and see its surface in extraordinary detail. Today, we can look directly at the biological egg. We can observe sperm approaching it, observe processes associated with fertilization, and even visualize the release of zinc associated with egg activation as a burst of fluorescence. Then I look at the sun, I look at the egg, and I remember the cosmic egg. That makes me stop, not because I have proved something, but because I have noticed something. There is a difference. I do not want to make things up merely because they fit beautifully. If something does not sit correctly, I have to move it, reconsider it, and sometimes abandon it entirely. Other times a slight adjustment suddenly allows several things that previously seemed separate to fall into place. That is why this remains an ongoing process. The purpose is not to construct a science out of symbolism. It is a philosophy of open-mindedness, allowing a pattern to be considered without immediately demanding either belief or rejection. Perhaps some of these correspondences are coincidence. Perhaps some arise because human beings repeatedly use familiar natural forms to understand things beyond immediate comprehension. Perhaps certain structures recur because nature itself repeatedly arrives at similar forms. Perhaps something else is happening. I don't know, and sometimes I don't know is exactly where contemplation should remain. For now, what I see is the singular sun and the dual appearance of the moon of day and the moon of night, the mirror between left and right, the meeting and reunion of seed and egg, the two becoming one and the one becoming many. The ray returning to its source, the breath moving outward while participating in what comes inward, the push and pull of breathing, the child leaving one womb only to enter another, the eclipse and the pupil, entrance into darkness, the zinc spark, the egg, and the sun, the earth beneath the descending seed, the cosmic egg, the triangle and the trinity, and reflected light and inherent symbolic light existing together without one erasing the other. Departure becomes return, outward becomes inward, two become one becomes many, and the many return our attention to the one. What appears unimaginably large and what appears unimaginably small can sometimes confront us with the same image, not necessarily because they are the same thing, but because the same image can appear through very different forms. Perhaps that distinction is exactly what allows the symbol to remain alive. Amen. Let it be so.